Well, welcome back to Shop Talk. Today we're going to work on this motor mount for the Smash Shark and see how that's going to all work. So let's get started. This is the old one, as I mentioned. I believe this one here is exactly the same dimension, and it is, of course. So we're going to set that aside. We're not going to need that. This is a 40 millimeter ring, and we're not going to need that. We're basically just, for the moment, going to need the two sides. Everything else should be okay. And then we can always switch out and put a 40 series motor in this thing and go from there. So we're just going to, for right now, we're just going to pick the middle hole. I like my motors as low as possible to get the best, boy, that wasn't very good, to get the best center of gravity. So we'll see how this works out. Anyway, we're going to put this in the middle hole, and we'll run the middle hole on that one. And we're going to have to adjust this can just a little bit. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we're going to make it work. Sometimes from being together for so long they get a little bit tricky. Plus it would help if I probably remove this back one. Get rid of this front one as well. Yeah, the boat had originally stock, it had the fiberglass mount. It was like a rail system. I was never really a big fan of that, to be honest, and there that lined right up once I took that off of there. I guess I was trying to twist it. Anyway, so hope everybody in the, I guess we're calling it now the boat gang, right? That's everybody that's interested in boats, part of the gang. And I hope everybody's having a good day. We've had some hellacious rain, and because of that, the grass is so wet I can't really mow it. I've mowed portions of it where it was dry and had to leave the other portions alone where it was wet. So it's just been a big mess. So there's that. Now we can probably go down to the lower notch than where we were. So we'll take all the stuff out of here. I just put everything, when I gutted it, inside the boat so we wouldn't lose it. So this should fit right about there, and we can definitely go a lot lower. So we're going to move this down to the bottom. And get this thing as low as we can and get the proper angle. So we're going to try to match up where the existing strut came through, of course. Just going to have to rebend a new one. And so this is going to go down here. Anyway, let me go ahead and get this all done off camera, and then we'll be back in a minute and we'll see how well it fits inside the boat. So bear with me, I'll be right back. Well, welcome back again. So I finished mounting the motor onto the motor mount. and let's see if we can get a good shot of that. I've taken the stuffing tube out. I've had to cut it. I've got the liner back in. Everything lines up just perfect on that. I'm still going to do a carbon fiber inlay inside the boat before I get this all mounted. So that'll be here in a bit. Obviously you won't see it. It'll probably be the next day, but for you guys it'll be just a couple of seconds. So anyway, I've got that all in there. I've got the liner in there so it helps align that, and I've got the stuffing tube right now pushed all the way in as far as it'll go into here. And then what I'll do is once I get the carbon inlay done and I get the stuffing tube, I'll have a little brace right here for the stuffing tube. And once that's all epoxied in and all done, then we'll pull the rear stinger back off. We'll cut it so that it's sticking out about 1/4 inch, and then the Teflon tube will go in the rest of the way to protect it for the grease and everything. The shaft is of course that long, so it's going to be in. So it's going to be about to there is where it'll end up being. So anyway, so let me get working on that, and we'll be back in just a little bit. So it'll probably be the next day. It's going to be a day job or so, but we'll be right back. Okay, so here's a Smash Shark. We've got the inlay, not my best work, but it's in there. And I got the motor. It's still tacky, and so what I've done is I've lined up the tube, and I've set the motor in there so that it should stay, and then I can go ahead and do the epoxy dam and everything on the motor mount. So that's where we're at right now. We just got to let it dry, and we'll get back at it in the morning. Okay, so we've got the motor mount glued in. I just undid the bolts, so now we can pull the motor out. And we will be gluing the inside of the motor mount next. So right now it's pretty strong. We also have the stuffing tube installed. Get my big fat finger out of the way. So that's all glued in. I will be putting a little bracket right here to support the end of that, and I need to cut off a little bit of that as well. I left it long. Also on the back side, I left it long. That'll be cut off. Now the reason it's long is because what I ended up doing before I put the let's see, get back in focus here, is I had the stuffing tube slid all the way in as far as it would go with the brackets on. And so that way it held that straight and square with that. So now I can cut this off probably just a little bit, right about even flush with that. Oops, there we go. About flush with that. And then that should be good. Now I did have, at one time I put some trim tabs in here. I'm not sure I'm going to put those back on right at the moment, but I may. This boat has a tendency to chine walk. So if I put the trim tabs on there, I should be able to, there we go, I should be able to keep it from chine walking as much. So basically that's kind of where we're at with this. So I will go ahead off camera, get all that glued up, and I'll get that piece made, and then we'll be back. Well, here's the motor mount totally glued in. I've cut the stuffing tube just a little bit. As you can see, I've also added the stuffing tube brace, so that's all good. And also on the back we've cut off quite a bit of the let's see if we can get this in focus, quite a bit of the stuffing tube coming out the back, so we may have to trim that a little bit more. But so the next step, what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and get the motor mounted after this all dries and cures, and then we can go ahead and assemble the back end of the boat. So stay with us, we'll be right back. We'll go ahead and get that done. Okay, so I wanted to show you something. As you can see, I've got my Teflon tube in here. It's flush with the inside of the tube inside the boat. The strut stinger will go right over that and line right up, no problem. Now, you might wonder and say, well, I've got this brass tube and it's sliding inside the brass tube maybe a 1/4 inch. But if you put your, if I can get it in there now. Well, that's kind of odd. Went in there just like no problem a second ago. Anyway, if you get that in there, you still have enough adjustment both down and up, okay, so that you can adjust the stinger. So if you put the gauge on the boat, I'm not sure, yeah, you can kind of see that. Okay, we're just going to hit 0, and then we can put it and move it over to here. We have a positive of 150, but we can also do a negative of 1.7, so 1.8. So bottom line is, you're still going to be able to have all the adjustment you need, even with that little brass. Now, one of the things, and I'll give credit to Big B, Ironclad, is he took a piece of small silicone and he put it over the tube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this so that the grease doesn't squirt out between this piece. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the motor installed. Now I put the, we were using the 4074 motor, so the 40 millimeter can. The reason I've put the stock motor back in is 2 reasons. Number one, I wanted to make sure that I ran the same motor that we did in the prior boat run, where we got 48 miles an hour, and we can determine whether or not my changing the center of gravity is going to improve the handling and speed with the boat or not. So we'll see about that. The reason I originally had the 40 millimeter can in there is because I wanted to make sure I got the motor mount adjusted correctly with the stuffing tube. So once I had the stuffing tube in, the centers of the motors are all the same. You just have to make sure that the 40 series motor can fit in the same spot. With it being bigger, it might have hit the bottom of the hull or something like that, and I didn't want to take that chance. So now the next thing we're going to do is, I've got this all lined up, fits right in there, no problem. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to measure from the end here to the end there, and I'm going to add about a 1/16 of an inch, and then we know that it'll slide all the way in and we'll all be good to go. I've got my bushing, my rubber bushing installed for grease protection, and the Teflon tube goes up to about here inside the stinger. So that should all work out really well, and it's also flush with the inside. So let me keep going and we'll be right back. Okay, so what we've accomplished so far is we have the motor mounted. We've now got the servo mounted with the rod running. I have to trim that off, of course. But the other thing I wanted to show you is I thought my rudder was a little bit on the crooked side, so it was like angled a little bit, right? Instead of being perfectly vertical, it was off one direction or the other. So what I did is I've leveled the hull, as you can see right here, right? So I've leveled the hull, and then I have another little tiny level, and now I've leveled the top of the rudder blade. So that should be perfectly 90 with one another, and we'll see if that eliminates that skip that we had in the corner. That could very well be what it was, why it was doing that. So anyway, we'll see what happens. So we do know that the trim tab brackets, which are here, right, trim tab brackets, those are perfectly 90 with the hull, and we know that the strut is 90 with the hull. So we'll just take a peek and see what happens. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get everything all tightened up. We siliconed the rudder bracket onto the hull, and so we're going to go ahead and let that all dry. The motor is all dry, good. We're waiting on a collet, should be here today for the other motor. But right now we're going to run that stock motor, just so we have apples for apples. We'll see how much more difference it made, and we'll go from there. So stick around. The next thing is we've got to put the battery bracket in and figure out where the weight and the balance is going to be, and the ESC. So that's where we're at right now. We're going to still run the same Flycolor 150 at the present time. Well, welcome back to Shop Talk. Here's the saga of the Smash Shark. So I've got the, to recap, I've got the motor mounted, I've got the servo mounted, I got the servo wire connected, I've got the strut and stinger put on, I have the 2 turn fins put on, so I have the weight that's going to be in the back of the boat already on there. The issue you have is if you look into the boat, okay, I've got the motor mount, which is a little bit extended motor mount because I can put a 40 size, like a 4082 or 4074 in here as well. That was the whole purpose of doing this. If I have the speed control up against the motor mount, and I have the battery up against the ESC, right, which is not really normally how you would run it, my balance point is right there, which is at 10 1/4 inches, which is 32%. We'd like to get a 30% balance point, because then you can easily shift weight forward to get the 32%, but you can't go back. So what we're going to do, which I've done in some of the other boats, is we're going to mount the ESC to the side of the motor, okay? So we're going to have to make a bracket for that. And then we can leave the battery tray up against the back of the mount. But as you can see, now at 32%, okay, I have to move the battery quite a bit forward so we can actually move the tray up a little bit. So there's my 32%. Well, real close to it. There we go. 32%. So right about there. Now if I go to my 30%, which is 9.6 inches, so you're talking 3/4 of an inch approximately. Okay, I have to move the battery. Now this is a 4-cell, so this is going to be about as heavy as I'm going to go. And I have to move it just about to the back of the tray, and the tray is approximately 3/4 of an inch in front of the motor mount. So what I may end up doing is having to leave it right about there. You can adjust it with the ESC by, if you make a slider tray, you can move it back and forth. Now on such a narrow boat, I don't really like having to have the speed control on the side. However, it'll also prevent torque roll on a narrower boat, so that'll help. So I may end up putting trim tabs on here, so you can crank this one down a little bit, or this one up or down a little bit rather, to kind of balance it out so it'll stay. Anytime you have anything in the water, you're going to create drag. Drag is going to make you go slower. So we're trying to eliminate that as much as possible. This particular boat, they didn't include trim tabs. A lot of the newer boats do. Don't know why, but easily to put on. I've had them on this already, but I never really dinked with it. I really never liked the center of gravity, so we've changed it by gutting it and doing this particular Shop Talk episodes. So that's where I'm at with this. So that's how I'm going to set this all up. Let me turn this so you get an idea of how this is all going to go. And that's our tray. So the next time you see the boat, we'll have it ready to go out for the water. We'll discuss everything that we did to it and look at how we did. So you can grade me, I guess. My work isn't the best. I have been building for a long time, but I'm not the best with the carbon fiber, that's for sure. But anyway, nonetheless, thanks for stopping by. That's where we're at. I also have a 3-cell, because occasionally you might want to run a pair of these in there as well. And a pair of these if you wanted to run it 6-cell, which I think is a little too much for this boat, but if you wanted to run a pair of 6-cells, they're about the same weight as a single 4-cell, maybe just a little bit more. That's why you want to be able to have this far enough forward so you can move those batteries back a little bit, or move the ESC if you need to. So the weight, if you can get, you know, the speed control, you don't get it so far back. But the further back you get it, the better, because it'll have less tendency to torque roll and cause any interference with that, because the boat, you know, generally is going to be riding on about that much water. So if you do it that way, it won't be as critical. Whereas if you had it up farther forward, it's going to be more rocky, I guess. So anyway, that's where we're at. So stay tuned for the completed version, and we'll try to get that out as soon as we can. So thanks for stopping by. Subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this series on the building this. Obviously you don't need to see me gluing everything up, but I just wanted to show you my ideas and how I'm going to work it. So subscribe and hit the like, ring the bell, all that stuff. You guys know what to do. And I appreciate you stopping by. Thanks. Appreciate the visit.